Academics will talk about working with multiple narratives. One of the key points about multiple narratives is recognizing that your story is not the only story. And that if we live in a plural society, if we live in a society which is divided by our understanding of the past, one of the keys to moving forward is recognizing that other people have a right to believe in their own kind of interpretations. Hi, I'm Paul Mullen. I'm Director of the National Lottery Heritage Fund.
My name's Jacqueline Irwin. I'm CEO of the Community Relations Council, and you're very welcome to this website, principlesforremembering.com. We've put the website together as a legacy for the work that we did over 10 years now on the Decade of Centenaries project. You'll find on this site resources that have been put together by historians, by local community organisations, by district councils, by museums and many, many others. We're so grateful to all those who were involved in putting those projects together over those years. It's been a collaborative journey, it's been a creative journey, it's been a learning experience for all of us.
Narratives which were created by one community, and that could be either the nationalist community or sort of the unionist loyalist community, but the narratives that were created by the communities here could really speak to only one section of society. And as a funder of heritage, we wanted our funding to be able to support a better understanding of the past.
Because it helps us to see that much of what we face in the present, we can learn from the past in terms of how we think about those issues. So that opportunity to reflect and learn, discuss and grow is enriching and in some ways makes its own history. It has been great to come into rooms full of people who have very many perspectives on the past.
We began to realise that as the Decade of Centenaries became something that we were moving towards, that we needed to work with a partner who could really help us negotiate and navigate that space, and that was the Community Relations Council.
We were facing into a decade of could be potentially difficult anniversaries. Essentially, that's all. We started with a question, a challenge. As a funder, how were we going to approach that decade?
A key tool for both the Community Relations Council and ourselves at the National Lottery Heritage Fund was to be able to work with a wide range of groups. And what we did was to set up what we call the Decade Roundtable.
But the project simply wouldn't have worked if it hadn't been for all of those other bodies that were involved. Some of them were historians, museums, those who were working at the local level and those that were working at a more national level on those issues. We didn't have an idea of where this project was necessarily going to go, so it was hugely iterative, very reliant on the ideas and the energy and the commitment and the creativity of everyone who was involved in that process.
The past is complicated, it can be interpreted in very different ways, and there are many perspectives. What we're not trying to do is to tell communities how they should go about and engage with the past.
So much of it has been about uncovering things that people didn't know, either about their own family or their local community, or about the overall context in which many of these events occurred, because history isn't a series of episodes, it's an interweaving series of events. It is as complicated as the present is, it's as ambivalent as the present is, and trying to draw out some of that complexity, particularly some of those memories that are maybe less well privileged in what we've managed to recall so far.
The development of tools like the Principles for Remembering are critical. What the Principles for Remembering endeavour to do is to help people to recognise and realise that the past is viewed in very different ways by different people. But through the work that's been done over the Decade of Centenaries, hopefully what people will be able to see that the past is much more complicated and not as simple as our story, my story, but not their story.
Humanising the past really has been at the core of this work, and the great way in which, particularly at the local level, the thirst that there is for people to know about their own family past, to know about what went on in their area in the past, ties up with that higher level story of what has gone on these islands.
It has shown that we can engage with difficult heritage. We can engage in challenging histories. We can tell difficult stories. We can look at the stories of Bloody Sunday. We can look at other challenging stories, but it's got to be based on that recognition that there needs to be many voices, there are different perspectives, and it's all got to be rooted in the facts of what has happened.
If I look at the principles here now, they are start from the historical facts, recognise the implications and consequences of what happened, understand the different perceptions and interpretations that exist, show how events and activities can deepen understanding of the period, and try to do all of that in the context of an inclusive and accepting society. In some ways, when you think about that, that seems like a very straightforward proposition, almost beguilingly simple, but they're not. They are actually quite challenging.
There isn't one story that we all agree on about the past. So it's how can we create this sense of narrative hospitality? We recognize that other people are entitled to have their perspectives, but by being able to talk about the past in these plural terms, we can understand each other better. The past is complicated. We can live with that. But what we can't live with is competing versions of the past, which only ever lead us into conflict.